Welcome back to this channel of intense life stories, where slow-burn betrayals, quiet revenge, and hard-earned lessons turn into confessions told by a calm robotic voice. If you like this kind of realistic drama, tap like now, subscribe, and stay with me until the end, because what I'm about to tell you is how my wife tried to trade a stable life for true love, how I let her jump, and how I made sure she finally saw exactly what life without me really looked like. My name is Daniel Cortez. I'm in my early 40s, and this is how my marriage ended the same week my real peace began. After almost 15 years together, my wife looked me in the eye and told me she had met her soulmate, a man who didn't care about money, status, or any of the materialistic nonsense that supposedly defined my world. I laughed later that day and told my assistant, cancel every card in her name, remove her mom from our company health plan, and schedule locksmiths to change every lock on my properties. The divorce papers were already sitting on my desk, coiled up like some sleek, poisonous snake. I built my company, Cortez Cyber Systems, from nothing. I started in my parents' garage with about $9,000 my father loaned me. And now the company is worth roughly $75 million, with close to 300 employees across 3 states. We design security software for banks, hospitals, and government infrastructure projects, systems that protect everything from financial records to energy grids. My clients pay premium prices because I'm precise, cautious, and always 3 moves ahead. That same mindset was about to reshape my entire personal life in ways my wife never saw coming. I met her, Lila Alvarez, at a charity gala about 16 years ago. She was 25, working as an event coordinator for a nonprofit, beautiful in that effortless way, auburn hair, warm smile, and eyes that made you think forever might actually exist. She wore a simple dark green dress that night. Nothing extravagant, but she looked like she belonged on a magazine cover. When she laughed at my nerdy jokes about code and servers, I thought I'd found someone who understood both sides of me, the ambitious entrepreneur and the introverted tech guy. Our wedding was small but elegant, just close family and friends at a vineyard outside the city. I remember watching her walk down the aisle, thinking I was the luckiest man alive. We spent our honeymoon wandering through ancient ruins on the other side of the world, eating seafood, drinking cheap wine that tasted expensive because of the views, and talking about our future. She dreamed of starting her own event planning business, and I was more than happy to bankroll it. For almost 14 years, everything looked perfect from the outside. We lived in a custom-built house in a wealthy hillside neighborhood, the kind of place other couples quietly resent. 6 bedrooms, an infinity pool, big windows with a mountain view that made every morning look like a postcard. Lila's business appeared to thrive, with high-end weddings, corporate galas, charity balls. We flew to Europe twice a year, on a modern beach house, and hosted dinner parties people bragged about attending. Then, about a year and a half before the divorce papers showed up, something shifted. Lila started working later and later, taking calls in other rooms, smiling at her phone in a way that made my stomach twist. When I asked, she brushed me off with polished excuses about demanding clients and complicated vendors. Every explanation sounded reasonable, and because I wanted to believe her, I did, at least for a while. Slowly, the lifestyle changes added up. She signed up for new fitness classes that required expensive branded workout outfits she never wore around me. She suddenly cared about organic cooking, meditation retreats, and transformational weekend conferences that multiplied every month. Each change alone made sense. Together, they formed a pattern I couldn't ignore. The truth hit me through the same type of systems I sell. I design tools to help companies detect unusual patterns in data, and once your brain works like that, you can't unsee what's in front of you. Her credit card statements showed fancy lunches at restaurants we'd never visited together and hotel reservations in our own city. No business conference needed a room half an hour from home. The GPS tracker I'd installed on her car years ago for safety showed detours to the Arts District and a specific downtown cafe at odd hours. Her phone, which used to live on the kitchen counter or bathroom sink, was suddenly glued to her hand. Screen always face down. Passcode changed to something I didn't know. She took it to the bathroom during dinner and jumped whenever a notification came in, like a teenager hiding a secret. I still didn't confront her, because here's something I've learned. If someone has decided to leave, your words won't stop them. Part of me was also morbidly curious. I wanted to see how far she'd take the act, how long she'd lie to my face while planning her exit. The morning she finally handed me the envelope, I actually felt relief, not because I wanted my marriage to end, but because the pretending could finally stop. If you've ever realized the person you trusted most has been living a double life, you know the feeling, the bottom drops out, and then, slowly, it stops falling. By the way, if you've ever been betrayed like that, you can share your story in the comments when this is over. You're not the only one. It was a Tuesday morning in late October when Lila walked into my home office holding a thick white envelope like it might explode. I was reviewing a security proposal for a big banking client, and she stood in the doorway wearing one of those overpriced yoga outfits from a boutique downtown where a single set costs more than some people's rent. Her hair was pulled back in a neat ponytail, and she had that glow people get when they think they're about to upgrade their life. "Daniel, we need to talk," she said in that rehearsed tone people use when they've practiced their speech in the mirror. I saved my work and turned to face her. "What's up?" I asked, keeping my voice neutral. She stepped forward and set the envelope on my desk, placing it next to my coffee cup with almost theatrical precision. "I want a divorce," she announced, still not meeting my eyes completely, fingers twisting the cap of her water bottle like it was the most important task in the room. I opened the envelope. The forms were already filled out, my name, her name, little sticky notes marking where she wanted my signature. She'd been planning this for weeks, maybe months. Every detail neatly organized. She'd really thought it through. "All right," I said, reaching for a pen. "If that's what you want, I'll sign." The silence that followed was almost funny. I could practically hear the script in her head collapsing. She'd expected yelling, tears, bargaining. Instead, I signed page after page with steady handwriting, no dramatic scribbles, just business as usual. "That's it?" she finally asked, her voice a little too sharp. "You're not going to ask why? You're not going to fight for us?" I looked at her properly then. She was still beautiful, even in her early 40s, the kind of woman who could turn heads without trying. But something in her eyes had changed over the last months, a mix of distance and guilt hiding under fake confidence. "Should I fight for us, Lila?" I asked quietly. "Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you already made your decision a long time ago." She opened her mouth, closed it, then opened it again. I finished signing, slid the papers back to her, and took a sip of my coffee. "Here you go. All done." She didn't move for a moment, clearly waiting for the breakdown that wasn't coming. When it didn't happen, something flickered across her face, confusion, maybe even disappointment. "I've met someone," she said finally, her voice taking on a defiant edge. "Someone who really sees me. Someone who cares about more than money and contracts." "Okay," I said, turning back to my computer. "I hope he makes you happy." "His name is Marco," she continued, determined to get some reaction. "Marco Silva. He's an artist, a real one, not some corporate sellout. He lives simply, authentically. He doesn't care about status symbols. He loves me for who I am, not for what I can do for him." I nodded, eyes on my screen. "Sounds perfect. That's all you're going to say?" Her frustration was rising. "After almost 15 years, that's your answer?" I turned my chair slowly to face her. "You want the truth, Lila? I think you've been cheating on me for at least 6 months, probably more. I think Marco is a broke painter who can't even pay his own rent. And I think you've convinced yourself that swapping financial security for poetic speeches about authenticity is some noble spiritual journey, instead of a midlife crisis with a Pinterest mood board." Her face went white, then flushed red. "How dare you? You don't know anything about Marco, or what we have." "I know he lives in a tiny studio in the Arts District," I said calmly. "I know he owes around $45,000 in student loans, another 10 in credit card debt, and I know his car got repossessed a few months ago. I also know he's been borrowing money from his parents just to make rent." Wanting to keep going, she stared at me like I'd started speaking another language. "You investigated me. Did you hire someone to follow me?" "I didn't have to hire anyone," I replied. "I build security systems for a living, remember? Digital footprints are my specialty. Phone GPS, transaction histories, email metadata. None of it lies if you know where to look." "You're disgusting," she snapped. "Violating my privacy like that. This is exactly why I'm leaving. You're controlling, paranoid, and you can't handle the idea of me having my own life." I walked to the window and looked out at the manicured lawn and the pool where we used to throw summer parties. You know what's funny, Lila? I'm not even angry right now. I'm just tired. Tired of pretending I don't notice when you come home smelling like a cologne I don't own. Tired of pretending to believe your stories about late client meetings. Tired of being married to someone who checked out emotionally, but still expects me to fund her lifestyle. She let out a bitter laugh. You act like you've been doing me this huge favor, like I should be grateful for the house and the cars and the trips. Aren't you? I asked, turning back to her. Because last time I checked, your event planning company has been losing money for 3 years straight. The only reason your business still exists is because I've been quietly moving money into your accounts to cover the shortfall. Did you really think your clients suddenly started paying triple? She froze. What are you talking about? Your business, I said, sitting back down. Since 2021, it's been bleeding cash. Overpriced inventory, bad venue deals, too much staff you couldn't afford. I've been covering your losses because I thought we were a team. Turns out I was just the bank. She grabbed the edge of my desk like she needed to steady herself. You're lying. I opened a spreadsheet and turned the monitor toward her. Here are all the transfers from my personal accounts into your business accounts over the last 3 years. $170,000 in total. You want to see receipts? Her eyes moved over the numbers. For a second I saw shame, but it vanished quickly, replaced by anger. You were trying to control me, she said, keeping me dependent so I couldn't leave. I was trying to support my wife's dreams, I corrected. But go ahead and tell yourself whatever helps you sleep. She hugged the signed divorce papers to her chest like a shield. Marco and I are going to build something real, something based on love and respect, not financial manipulation. I honestly hope it works out for you, I said, and I meant it, but not for the reason she thought. I knew what was coming, and watching her discover it herself would be far more satisfying than any argument. She walked to the door and turned back. And I'm keeping the beach house. My lawyer says I'm entitled to half of everything, including the vacation properties. I smiled. We'll see what the lawyers say. After she left, I made the call I'd been planning for weeks. Hannah, it's Daniel, I said when my assistant picked up. It's time for phase 2. You're sure? Hannah Lee had been my executive assistant for nearly a decade. She knew everything about my business and more than most people about my personal life. More importantly, she was efficient, discreet, and loyal. I'm sure, I said. Start with the credit cards. Every single one under my name and assigned to her. Cancel them immediately. What about her mother's coverage? That was the nuclear option. Lila's mother, Rosa, had been diagnosed with severe rheumatoid arthritis years earlier. The medication she needed cost nearly $2,800 a month, and I've been covering it through my company's extended health plan. Lila knew that. She just never imagined I'd use it as leverage. Cut it, I said, effective immediately, and schedule a locksmith for the main house tomorrow at 8 a.m., another for the beach house as soon as possible. I want new locks everywhere. Get photos, timestamps, everything documented. Consider it done, Hannah said. Anything else? Yes. Transfer $450,000 from the joint account into my personal account. Leave enough for her to pay basic bills this month, but that's it. And freeze the line of credit linked to her business. No more transfers. No more bailouts. She wants independence. She can have it. Daniel, Hannah said carefully, you know she's going to lose it when all of this hits at once. That's the idea, I replied. I'm done playing defense. The next morning, my phone started buzzing at 7:30. Lila. I let it go to voicemail. She called again at 7:45. Voicemail again. By 8:15, she called 6 times and sent a stream of texts, each one more frantic than the last. The messages started angry. What did you do to my cards? Then confused. Why isn't my car key working? Did something happen with the security system? Then panicked. This isn't funny, Daniel. I have a client meeting and I can't get into the house to grab my files. Then desperate. Please call me. We need to talk about this like adults. I deleted the messages and made my usual coffee. By 9, Hannah called to confirm everything. The locks are changed, she said. I have photos and timestamps from both properties. The cards are canceled. The joint account has been adjusted. And I just got confirmation that your mother-in-law's coverage has been terminated. Perfect, I said. What about Marco? Hannah's voice took on a satisfied tone. I dug deeper. Marco Silva isn't just broke. He's impressively broke. He owes money to multiple credit card companies, has a judgment from a former landlord, and his main checking account is currently negative by nearly $400. He's been seeing Lila for around 7 months, but he's also been involved with at least 2 other women in that same time frame. You're kidding, I said, though I wasn't surprised. I have screenshots from his public social media, Hannah continued. Photos with a woman named Paula from a few weeks ago, very cozy at a gallery opening, and another woman named Nina from a beach bonfire last month. All tagged, all public. Marco is not exactly subtle. A cold, clean satisfaction settled in my chest. Send me everything. Already did, she replied. There's more. Marco has a pattern. He targets financially stable women, showers them with attention and talk about art and authenticity, then slowly starts borrowing money. Small amounts at first, then bigger. I found records of him doing this with at least 4 women over 6 years. According to the ones I spoke to, they all thought they'd found their soulmate right up until he disappeared with their money. So he's a charming parasite, I said. Sounds about right. I opened my email and scrolled through the screenshots. Marco holding hands with Paula at an art show. Caption about muses and inspiration. Marco at a bonfire with Nina, arm around her shoulders. In several photos, he wore clothes that clearly didn't match his reported income. You're a genius, Hannah. Just doing my job. Want me to send the screenshots to Lila? Not yet, I said. Let her feel the full weight of her choices first. I want her to really believe in this fantasy before I show her the reality. By midday, Lila had left almost a dozen voicemails. I listened to one just to gauge her state of mind. Daniel, I don't know what game you're playing, but this is serious, she said, voice trembling. Every one of my cards was declined this morning. When I went home to get my checkbook, I couldn't even get inside. The locks are different. And my mother just called sobbing because her insurance told her the coverage was canceled. She needs that medication. This is cruel and petty, and I will not let you get away with it. Call me back. I deleted the voicemail and called Hannah again. Status update. Rosa has called the insurance company 16 times so far this morning, Hannah reported. She's trying to figure out how to afford the medication herself. Lila has been calling locksmiths all over town, but I already notified them that the legal owner has forbidden any forced entry. As for her business, the credit line has been frozen. She tried to tap it to cover payroll and discovered there's a $25,000 gap. 3 of her employees have already quit, and Marco, according to his socials, is sitting in a cafe posting a photo of his latte with the caption, "Living my most honest life." No mention of Lila or any drama. I actually laughed. While Lila's carefully curated world imploded, her soulmate was sipping expensive coffee and posting about authenticity. My phone buzzed again. This time I answered. Daniel. Her voice sounded raw. What is wrong with you? Good morning, Lila, I said mildly. How's your day going? Are you being serious right now? She snapped. You locked me out of my own house. You canceled my credit cards. You cut off my mother's medication. What kind of monster does that? The kind who got divorce papers yesterday, I replied. You wanted independence. I'm just speeding up the process. This is insane. This is financial abuse. Actually, it's just practicality, I said. Those cards, all under my name. The house, legally mine, purchased before we married. Your mom's health plan, covered through my company. You announced we're no longer partners, so I'm shutting down financial obligations that belong only to me. You can't just cut off my mother like that, she cried. She needs that medicine to function. Then I suggest you figure out how to pay for it, I said quietly. Isn't that what independence means? Standing on your own 2 feet. She started to sob. Daniel, please. I know you're hurt, but this is too far. My mother never did anything to you. You're right, I said. Rosa never hurt me, but you did. You lied, cheated, and tried to walk away with half of what I built. So here's how this works, Lila. You go live that authentic life with Marco, and I'll protect what's mine. I can't afford any of this, she whispered. Not my mother's medicine, not my business. I can't even get to my clothes. That's not my problem anymore, I said. You made your choice. Now you live with it. I hung up before she could answer, turned off my phone, and went back to work. Over the next 3 days, I watched her world collapse through security footage and Hannah's updates. Lila tried to force her way into the house twice, only to have the police confirm that I was the sole owner and she had no right to break in. She maxed out the one low-limit card I hadn't canceled yet. On purpose, I left her a $600 limit just to see how fast she'd hit it, and discovered she couldn't make payroll without the credit line. Employees started walking out. The real turning point came on the fourth day, when Marco finally dropped the mask. According to a very helpful barista at Marco's favorite cafe, Lila arrived there in full panic, begging him for help. She needed money, support, anything. She needed her soulmate to be the man she imagined. Marco's solution was to suggest she call her rich husband and ask nicely for more cash, maybe promise to be civil during the divorce in exchange. When Lila explained I'd cut her off, Marco got uncomfortable. "Look, babe, you know I love you," he reportedly said, "but I'm in a tight spot too. I'm between commissions and my parents stop helping me. Maybe you should try working things out with Daniel until you get your share of the assets." Lila apparently left his apartment in tears, finally seeing what I'd known for months. Marco didn't love her. He loved what she could provide. On the fifth day, she stormed into my office building. Hannah tried to stop her, but Lila shoved past security and burst into my private conference room while I was meeting with a client. "Daniel, we need to talk," she said, looking nothing like the polished woman who once glided through charity galas. Her hair was unwashed, her makeup smeared, and she was wearing the same clothes I'd seen on camera 2 days in a row. I excused myself from the meeting and let her into my office. She collapsed into a chair, eyes red and swollen. "I made a mistake," she whispered. "A huge one. Marco isn't who I thought he was. And I see now that I took you and everything you did for granted." I sat across from her and waited. "Can we please talk about this like adults?" she continued. "I know I hurt you. I know I betrayed your trust. But we were together almost 15 years. That has to count for something." "It did," I said. "Right up until you decided it didn't." "I want to fix this," she said, tears welling up again. "I want to go to therapy, rebuild what we had. Please, Daniel, I'm begging you." I pulled out my phone and opened the photos Hannah had sent. "You should see this first," I said, handing it to her. She scrolled through pictures of Marco with Paula at the gallery opening, Marco with Nina at the beach, screenshots of messages from other women he'd charmed, and then drained financially. A pattern, over and over. "He told me I was different," she choked. "He said he'd never felt this with anyone. He says that to all of them," I replied. "You weren't special, Lila. You were just the next paycheck." She broke then, deep, ugly sobbing from somewhere down in her chest. "What am I going to do?" she asked between breaths. "I can't pay my staff. I can't access my business accounts. I can't even get clothes from the house. And my mother is in pain without her medicine." I leaned back and studied the woman I'd once promised forever. "Here's what's going to happen," I said. "You're going to sign a new agreement. You don't get half of anything. You don't get the house, the cars, or another cent for your business. In return, I'll restore your mother's coverage and give you $50,000 to start over. You take that money, leave town, and you only contact me through lawyers from now on." "That's not fair," she snapped. "I'm entitled to half of everything." "You're entitled to what you can prove you contributed," I answered. "The house was bought with my money before we married. Your business has been losing money for years. I have documentation of your affair. Do you honestly think a judge is going to side with you?" She stared at me, calculating, trying to see if she could still leverage something. "You can gamble if you want," I continued. "Spend the next 3 years in court while your mother suffers and your business collapses. Or you sign my agreement, walk away with some dignity, and get a clean start for both of us." She sat there for a long time, then her shoulders slumped. "I'll take the deal," she said softly. "Smart choice," I replied. "Hannah will have the paperwork ready tomorrow. You sign, you get your check, and then we're done." Lila stood up slowly, like she'd aged 10 years in 5 days. "I really did love you once," she said quietly. "I know," I answered. "I loved you too. But love isn't enough when one person is lying." She moved toward the door, then turned back. "Did I ever really matter to you, Daniel? Or was this just business for you the whole time?" I thought about every year we spent together, every plan, every sacrifice. "You mattered enough for me to fund your business when it wasn't profitable," I said. "You mattered enough for me to pay for your mother's medication without ever asking for thanks. You mattered enough for me to give you nearly 15 years of loyalty." But I also learned something. Caring about someone isn't enough if they don't care about you in return. After she left, I sat in my office and felt something I hadn't felt in months. Quiet. Not joy, not triumph, just a deep, steady peace. The weight of pretending was gone. The burden of holding up a dead marriage was lifted. I could finally focus on building something real instead of maintaining something broken. An hour later, Hannah knocked on my door. "The paperwork's drafted," she said. "Legal says it's solid." "Good," I replied. "Let's finish this." "One more thing," she added. I did a final check on Marco. He's already moved on. Posted photos yesterday with another successful professional woman. Looks like he found his next mark. I couldn't help laughing. At least he's consistent. Should we warn her? Hannah asked. I shook my head. No. Some people only learn the way Lila did, by crashing headfirst into their choices. 3 days later, Lila signed a new agreement, took her check, and moved to another city where her sister lived, a hot, dusty place about a state away. I heard through mutual acquaintances that she closed her business, sold off her equipment, and took a job as an event coordinator for a hotel chain. Fixed hours, fixed salary, no more pretending to be a high-flying entrepreneur. I reinstated Rose's medication the same day Lila signed. I never actually intended to leave her without treatment long-term. I just needed Lila to get a clear picture of life without my safety net. As for me, I threw myself into work with more clarity than I'd had in years. Cortez Cyber Systems landed 3 major contracts over the next few months, expanded into 2 new states, and increased revenue by almost 40%. Without the constant emotional drain, I could see where I wanted the company to go and steer it there. About 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I ran into one of Lila's old friends, Julia, at another charity event. She pulled me aside with an apologetic look. "I should tell you," she said, "Lila keeps asking if I can find out whether you're seeing someone or if you ever talk about her." "And what do you tell her?" I asked. Julia shrugged. "I told her you seem happier than I've ever seen you," which is true. "And for what it's worth, you look good, Daniel. Lighter." "Thanks," I said. "I feel lighter." "She's struggling," Julia admitted. "The job out there isn't what she pictured. She's alone a lot. I think she finally realizes what she walked away from." I thought about Lila in some small apartment, staring at the ceiling at night, wondering if she made the biggest mistake of her life. "You know what's sad?" I said. "She didn't walk away from anything. She threw in the trash. There's a difference." Julia nodded slowly. "I think she knows that now." Looking back, I can see that those divorce papers landing on my desk were the best thing that could have happened to me, even though it didn't feel that way in the moment. Not because I wanted my marriage to end, but because it freed me from the exhausting job of dragging a corpse around and calling a relationship. Lila thought she was trading security for authenticity, wealth for real love. In reality, she traded a partner who quietly carried her dreams for a charming con artist who saw her as an ATM with feelings. When that blew up, she learned the hard way that independence means standing on your own feet, even when they feel shaky. The last I heard, Marco was dating his 4th successful woman in 2 years. Some people never change, but that's not my problem anymore. The lesson I took from all this is simple. When someone shows you who they really are, believe them. When they tell you they want to leave, let them. Don't fight to keep someone who's already halfway out the door. Don't prop up a person determined to fall. Step back, protect yourself, and let them experience the natural consequences of their choices. Lila wanted independence. I gave it to her. She wanted to see what life with Marco looked like. I made sure she got the full experience. Now she knows exactly what it feels like to lose everything she assumed would always be there, to realize too late that stability and support aren't chains, they're gifts. She also knows there's a big difference between a man who loves you and a man who uses you, and that noticing that difference might be the most important skill you ever learn. As for me, I'm doing better than ever. The company is thriving. I'm dating someone who actually appreciates what I bring to the table, and I sleep through the night without wondering what new story I'm going to hear in the morning. In a twisted way, Marco did me a favor. He exposed Lila's truth, and in the process, he revealed mine. I learned that I'm stronger than I thought, more resilient, and fully capable of walking away from something shattered instead of endlessly trying to glue it back together. Not every marriage should be saved. Not everyone deserves your loyalty. And sometimes, letting go is the bravest move you can make. If this story resonated with you, don't forget to hit like, leave a comment about what you would have done in my place, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next confession that might sound uncomfortably close to your own life.